Okay, so we have a thumbs up from Ian, so we are ready to go. It's 10 o'clock. So I will just start off by saying welcome to this session where we will go through the new intranet. So we are launching the intranet and the new communications guide today, which is great. And I know that, of course, you want to see the intranet as such, but I'm going to start off with 2 slides. So sorry about that. Just to give you a little bit of background. So we've had a small project team working on this together with the whole Office 365 project. It's been myself and Ian who's been leading the project and configuring and building the intranet. And then we've had Marie Jurisso, who's been the project owner, giving us guidance. We've had the executive team also giving us strategic guidance and of course worked with the final decisions that we've been through. We have had a stakeholder reference group, and of course global management team has been giving us advice on the center needs and how we are to meet their needs. So that's been a very important part for us to really connect with them on a regular basis. Then we have our page and section owners. So it's been a very important part for this project to have ownerships of the different sections. We've learned that this is a success factor. So what you will see on the intranet is that on most of the sections at least, you'll find at the bottom who is the owner of that section. And if you want to, you can connect to that person if there's something that you're wondering about or have ideas for publishing on the intranet. Good. So I also would like to talk about the role of the intranet. And I'm going to go through a few of the apps that we have with the Office 365 suite and also some other services that we have, just so we get an idea of how the intranet will fit into this. First of all, we have the OneDrive, and this is your personal information space or repository. With also a function to share with others. So of course you can do that, but it is your personal space. Then we have the Teams app. This is where the work happens. This is a collaboration and conversation platform. And you've had the trainings with Ian on a center level, so you should all be up and running with this, I hope, now. Then we also have Yammer. We have not talked much at all about Yammer, but it's available for everyone. And it can be seen like the lunchroom. There's not much rules, but it's more of an informal place for you to have dialogues with people internally. Then we have, of course, our external website. And the external website is primarily targeting external audiences. And of course, our information hub. So, coming to the intranet. The intranet is an information hub for us as employees. So it's an internal place for us to share information. And the benefits of having a good intranet with central information is to, of course, facilitate the internal communication. It's also to simplify processes and to improve the workflows that we have internally. This means that the purpose of the internet is not to have duplicate information from the external website. Just mentioning that. Okay, now to the fun part. What does the intranet look like? And you will receive a link to the intranet after this meeting and should have access right away. And if you don't, let me know. Just a second. Okay, here's our new intranet. Yay! So I just want to say that the intranet is built on responsive design, so you're more than welcome to use your mobile phone to visit the intranet as well. It should be working for you. I will be going through the different sections in the structure of the intranet, but I want to also let you know that there are other sections, new sections coming. that we are building on, or sections that will be further developed. So this is a starting point and a good starting point, but just be aware that we will be further developing this. Okay, so I'm gonna stand here behind this now so that we can go through the structure. First of all, we have a top navigation, and this navigation holds 3 global departments and 2 services that I will go through in a second. If we scroll down a little bit to the right-hand side, you'll see that we have prominent links to our centers and headquarters sections. Show you a little bit about that soon. We have a news component with highlights and updates. And as you can see, Åsa Persson has been very active lately. So there are all news items from her, because there's always going to be the latest, most recent news item displayed in this one. But what you can do is always to click on this See All, and you'll get a list. I'll just show you that one. You'll get a list of all the updates, so you don't have to fear that you will be missing out on something. And then you have a list of all the updates that has been made. You have a sub-navigation underneath here where you always can come back to the section's homepage that you are on. So now we were on the intranet, which would be the same as going to this link up here. Scrolling down a little bit, we have highlights of groupings or management committees or other information that's related to all of us and that we want to highlight. For example, we have the Global Research Committee, Global Management Committee. We have our executive director's notes, the executive team, and also, of course, information about the new strategy. If we scroll down a little bit, you'll find the calendar component. We will be populating this when we have more information about activities and events that relates to all of us. Then we have a component, a stream component, and this is a component that will hold all of our internal webinars and trainings. We identified that it's today a little bit hard to find internal trainings after you've had the webinar on YouTube, because you need to have the link. So what we will do from now on is upload them in here. They, for now, are a little bit not organized in a very well structured way, but it will be the latest one will be displayed when we start using this properly. And you can always click this next one to see all, next 3 ones to see all. And then we have a few quick links to our social media channels, corporate ones. So let's have a look. I will go to the Global Research Committee first to show you a little bit what it looks like. And this, I want to show you this also because the structure of the pages will be repeated. It's a nice way to learn how to find the right information. So on the Global Research Committee, you have again the news component. You have a quick link to the core funded projects and initiatives. And if you scroll down, you have some meeting notes. And for example, also the GRC updates. I'm going to click on this one so you can see where that would lead us. This is a page where you get context. So these are the GRC updates that's been sent out via email previously, and now you can find them here. In a nice way. Okay, so let's go back. I'm just gonna see if I'm on time as well. Let's go back to the intranet, to the home page, and I'll show you the executive notes section. Again, it's similar to the GRC updates page, and this is where you can now find Måns's notes in a nice way displayed, and Jonna is updating. This is actually, I should be telling you, a bar that will not be displayed to you. I am in admin mode, but that's the only thing that should be different for you. Going back to the intranet, let's have a look at one of the center. I'm actually going to start off with the headquarters section to give you an idea of what you can find here. Again, this structure is the same as most of the center pages. It, of course, varies depending on the content that's related to that specific center, but the structure is fairly the same. Again, a news component. This is where you will find information about new employees. It's a nice way for us to get familiar with the people who's actually starting at the different offices. You'll have a quick link to documents, headquarter documents in this case. You could, for example, in here find HQ holidays, and I'm just showing you what that page could look like with a nice table. Going back up here, you can also see that we have the sub-navigation to different sections. So these departments are now on a local level. So communication, finance, and human resources found in this navigation are connected to the headquarters. So not the same as these up here. Those are global ones. So let me just scroll down so I haven't missed anything. This is what I was telling you in the beginning, that we also display who the owner is of the section. So Paula has been very, very good with updating this section. Let's go to the human resources section here, just to get an idea. Very important quick links to, for example, International SOS, our Comui and Agda. So these are systems that are related to our HQ office. And of course, they also have highlighted, for example, the employee handbook here and some policies. So please, when you, after this session, or when you have watched this or have time to access the intranet, go to your center page or HQ page and browse around to get familiar with the section, because this is where you should be going then afterwards when you are looking for content. Okay, I'm also going to show you another center just to getting the feel for it, of how it looks here as well. Again, similar structure of the same structure of the sub navigation. News component, and then they have the highlighted content here as well. And we have our owners, Jack and Emily, in this case. Okay. So let's go to I'm going to go back just so we find our bearings again to the home page, and I'm going to show you one of the global departments. So let's go to communication, the global communication department or section on the intranet, and just show you briefly what you can find here. You have some quick links to our communications guide, for example, that Misha will run through soon. You have a quick link to all the documents that we share from a global comms perspective. So I'm just going to click on that one so you can see. There's quite a lot of folders here, and please browse around when you have the time or search for it. Go back to home, and now go back to, when I click on the home there, come to the global comms page, and you have the templates here, for example, as well. Information of who to contact and when. Some news of what's happened globally from a comms perspective. And again, highlighted content in this hero component, as it's called. I'm going to show you, for example, coming to the visual identity, SCI visual identity. Here you have links to some context to the content and links to the different documents, and who to contact if there's something that you're missing or have questions on. And you're more than welcome to stop me if you have questions. And that goes for you on the live webinar as well. Write a comment to Ian in the chat if you want to. Another section that's new here, or new, all the sections are new, but a functionality that's new is that we will also have our internal communication webinars displayed in a stream channel here. Again, I might be missing some, and if I have, please let me know. But you should be finding them all here later on. Yes, please go ahead. The question. Sorry, can I just, so that everyone can hear the question, which might be useful.
Hello. So if, for example, I want to look for the seminar that Misha did a couple of weeks ago about how to write good sentences, how do I search for it?
Well, that one, it's a very good question. Hypothetically, you would search for it either in the search bar up here, or you come to the comms section, to the global comms section, and click on this communication webinars, and you could then find it here. But that one was not a webinar, so you wouldn't find it. But I understand the question. Yeah. But just so you, the way to search for it, but unfortunately that one won't be found. Thank you. Okay, good. So I will then show you some of the other services that we have from the top navigation. So first of all, we have Teams. This is where you go to create a new team. You will not be able to do that from the Teams app, but you do it from here. So if I click here, and you've been shown the interface previously in the trainings that Ian has had with all the centers, but just reminding you. This is where you create your new team now. And this is also where you can search for teams if you wanted to join a team that's already existing. And if you want to search for a team, as you probably know already, these are the variables that you could search for. So even on a project owner or project leader. Okay, one of the services. So please remember to go to here if you want to create a new team. Another service that I really want to, yes, Lisa?
What about all the teams
that
already exist? Oh, yeah.
I can repeat the question. Yeah. What about the teams that already exist? They're all here.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. So there's no change to it. It's just that you need to go through here to create a new team. Okay. Another service or a functionality that I really want to be promoting and that I want you to be engaged with is people, or in the menu it's called people. I'm going to go here and come to an app called Delve. So this is going to be a very, very useful service if we all contribute with information. So what I can do here is I can search, I'm just going to put that here. I can search for a project that I'm looking for example, and I get people who has written that they're working on this project or has worked on that project before. Or I could search for a skill. I can't remember one now, but I could search for another project, for example. And I get the people who's working on that one as well. This is, of course, very, very useful for us. And we really want to encourage people to update your profiles with your skills and projects. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you go up to the right-hand corner, you'll see your own image and your own account. And you go to the My Office profile. My Office profile. They've changed the heading. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more details of what it is that we want you to write in there. So this is my profile. And in here, if I scroll down a little bit, I can see an introduction that I've written myself, about myself. I can see what projects I am or have been working on. And I can see my skills. You can also add education in schools here. And I really want to encourage you to do this because this will most definitely facilitate collaboration and the use of our skills internally in our projects if we have done this. So please go up and update your profile. To be a little bit more detailed, in the About section, and here, if you're a researcher, please state your research background and interests. what regions and contexts you mainly work within or have worked within. Networks and groups could be mentioned that you're involved in or a part of. What donors and funders or organizations that you have experience with. That would be very useful. Of course, when it comes to projects, like I said, both the ones that you are currently working on or have worked on. And when it comes to skills, we would really like you to add your research topics and skills, including technical and soft skills, methods and approaches that you have experience or expertise with, and your working languages. That could also be very useful if we have a new project and we're looking for people to join the project. So please update your profile. Okay. Let's see where we are now. Let's go back to the global communication page. And from, yes, Ellie.
So in our profiles at the moment, there's nothing, and we need to go and put it all in, or there's something from the existing internet or something?
Good question. So when it comes to the About section, the project and skills, there's nothing. But you will find other information about yourself that's connected to what you do with the Office 365 apps. But they might not be public or visible to others. So that's why we really want you to update these three sections. Yeah?
And is it free text, or is it, do you select from?
Good question. So sorry, I should be repeating the question. That the first question was if there was anything populated now on your profiles. There's none. And I can also show you what it looks like. It's free text when it comes to the About section. You just write whatever you want to. When it comes to projects, it's also free text, but you add like lines. As if I do this again. You just add project. Yeah, it's clever enough to take it away. And then skills the same. There's actually a field here as well that's called you can also ask me about, which could be useful if there's something else. And these are all wordings that will be searchable in Delph. Now do remember, because it's all free text field, to be a little bit cautious of with the spelling so that people can really find it. Was that answering your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
One more.
Yes, please, Ellie.
You just read out a list of all of the tips of the good things to put on there. Would you be able to send that or put it somewhere so that we remember to put?
Yes, most definitely. This will be shown on a new section called Knowledge Management section or Hub. But I could most definitely send it out just to inform you now after this meeting, including the link to the intranet as well. Right, Åsa? Yeah, good.
So, I mean, maybe you can say that the Knowledge Management Hub will be launched in November, because we started that recently, so that people are aware that will go.
You want to say this, because perhaps you can also just give a little bit of a short brief of what you will be able to find, if that's okay?
So I was just saying that there is a section which you can't see, which won't be launched today, which is called Knowledge Management Hub, which also has different sections, but is now being sort of hidden. You can't see it because we, together with Julia Barrett, are working on that up until end of November. And that will also include like an entry point to this sort of Delve, with all the personal profiles. And there we have provided sort of guidelines what we would like you to fill in. So it's more than just like ongoing projects. It's also a way for people to understand what kind of skills and methods have you been working on, what kind of experience you have and so on. So we can easily find each other and sort of team up on proposals or projects and so on. But maybe that sort of information will be launched now today.
Yes, the Delve section will be launched today, but the knowledge management section where you find the description will not. So perhaps I can just use what's your description and send it out, because since it's an opportunity for people to. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Then you're coming up.
Okay.
So I would like us to listen to Misha when she's going to introduce to us all the new communication guide, just showing you where you can find it. So from the Global Communication Department section up here, and you have a quick link to go to the Communications Guide. And from this section, oops, you can go here. And Misha.
Yes, great. And would you mind moving your computer?
Would you like me to take my computer?
Yes, thanks. Oops. A lot of stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to set this up quickly. Blue one.
Is it okay?
Hopefully that will just magically... Oh, that's my background, sorry. That's not embarrassing. Actually, let's just do this. And yes, there we go, great. Good, so thank you, Moa, and thanks everyone. I'm going to be talking about the Communications Guide, which we're also launching today. Very exciting, I'm sure you're all thrilled to hear about it. But I actually want you to think about this not just in terms of this being a tool for communications, but also think about how you structure your information. So just because we've got a whole new system where you can put information doesn't mean that people are going to be able to find it. So this is a brainstorming activity that Moa and I did over a year ago now, thinking about all of the different documentation that is relevant to my job. So I work with the internet, I work with social media, digital communications. This is a very incomplete list. This is the start of something much bigger, where we sort of started to understand that actually we do have a lot of documentation. Most people in the communications team don't even know how to get this stuff or that it exists, let alone more broadly in SEI. So you might be working in a project that has lots of communications activities, non-communications activities, lots of documents. You might be working in HR and you've got a lot of documents you have to share. You might be, I don't know, just in a project that you can never find what you need to find. So I want you to be thinking, as I'm showing you the Communications Guide, how can you take what we've done with this guide to make your information more accessible to your team members, other people you're working with, collaborators, and so on. So we did this mapping exercise and I started to build this online portal for the communications team to find, here are the documents that we have and here's where they might be relevant. It didn't work at first. I mean, it was sort of a first iteration of trying to get things all together. We also identified there was a lot of gaps. So just a fair warning, if you start to do this sort of thing for your team or your project or your department, you might realize that you have a lot of documentation that's missing. And if you can put that documentation together and make it easy to find, then you're going to make everyone's lives a lot easier. So I hope that's what we've done with the Communications Guide. So this is how you find it. As Moa showed you, head to the Communications link from the global navigation at the top. Click on Communications Guide, and then you can find it here. And I do have some notes I should probably look at. So this is what you see when you open the guide, and it is for everyone. It's a global guide about what information might be relevant for you when you're doing something with the communications team or in the communications area. Hopefully I don't actually need to talk through it too much because the idea is that this is a pretty easy reference guide. It helps you find the information that is actually located on the intranet, but you might not know it exists. You might not know where to find it. You might not know who's responsible, who to ask a question, what activities relate to which documents and so on. So this hopefully makes that process a whole lot easier. So you can start with this section here. If you're doing a web update, you're maybe wondering, how do I add a new press release on the website? This will tell you a little bit of information and then you can click Learn More to see, okay, these are the different steps in creating a new press release. Depending on what stage you're at, it will give you information relevant for you. So for example, if you're drafting a press release, you'll get some information about useful tips on what to know, and then links to documents on our intranet. So if you already knew that these guidelines existed on the intranet, you'd probably go straight to the intranet, find them, easy, done. But if you've never done a press release before, or it's been a while, then hopefully this guide will help you to understand, okay, here's the documentation that we have, here's how to find it. And then if you've got some questions, you can find out who to contact. Or you might, for example, be at the stage of publishing a press release. So you could be in the communications team. It's a very different process creating a new press release if you're thinking about drafting one versus putting one on the website. So on this page about publishing a press release is relevant to different people in the organisation. Different documents are now relevant to these people. You might want to look at the web publishing checklist, which helps you with publishing on our website. Copyright and credit requirements, these are documents that might not be relevant at the drafting stage, but now they are relevant. So you can see that these information layers can be quite complex depending on what your documentation is being used for. It might not be quite this complex if you're thinking about the documentation for a project, but maybe you could just put together a quick reference guide with links to the different documents on the intranet or in your project team or something like that, because it's just like the internet. Just because the information is there doesn't mean that people will find it. So hopefully this will help. And you can also browse by activities. So this is just another way of finding the same information. Let's say I'm working on a publication. I don't know what's involved, or I'd like to get some guidance. This will help you through that process. So from planning, what's useful there, who to contact if you have a question, on to the next stage. It tells you what's now relevant, quick tips, documents, sometimes some examples which are quite useful, and so on. Now, like I said, it also helps you to understand who is your contact if you have a question. So in this case, if you're working on a publication, the publication's inbox is who to contact. Maybe you've never contacted them before, so this will give you a little bit of information about what is the publication's inbox, what's the email address, who's actually managing it. So that might be useful information, especially for new staff. If you never really worked with a publication before, this could be really valuable. And this contact page is sort of embedded throughout. So, I'm here drafting a publication, I find the link to the relevant part of the contacts page, or from the home page of the communications guide, you can scroll through and see all contacts. So right at the top, for example, we have our primary centre contacts. So if you're starting a new project or you've got some new work at your centre or office and you don't know who to contact, now you can sort of know which is the right staff member to contact. And lots of other things in here, because the communications department, we're a global network. It's not always easy to know who to contact for what, especially in the centres where we might not have a press contact in every office, we might not have an editor in every office. So this hopefully is really useful for getting that context. So have a look through it if you've never really worked with us before, or you're not sure who to contact for what sorts of things. And also at the bottom, you can sort of filter based on, okay, I want to know who's a press contact, for example, so I can see that. Or I want to see who works at SEI Latin America, for example. So this sort of, this page is, hopefully you won't sort of go to the contacts page and read everything. That's not the point of this guide. The point is it helps you based on what activity you're doing right now. So media coverage just tells you exactly what you need to know based on what stage you're at, and then the help and guidance is tailored to that activity. Same thing with documents. So these documents, like I said, are located on the intranet. These are just, this guide just helps you find them. But you can also, if you know the name of the document that you're looking for, you can scroll down on the communications guide, click on all documents and find it in here. It's pretty much the same as looking on the intranet, but you're sort of getting around the folder structure in this case. So this might be useful if you know exactly the name of something, but you don't know the folder it's in. This might help out. So, if you're thinking now about what inspiration you can take from this guide when you're putting together your own information for your your team channel, your project page, whatever it happens to be. Have a think about what your colleagues need at what point. So what is their user journey is the phrase that is often used. Maybe it makes sense to have everything in one big folder, but I can pretty much guarantee you that over time, that's not the best approach. If you think about our old intranet, it was maybe difficult to find documents because we didn't have much of a structure as we do with the new intranet does. Now we've got more of a organization based on center and department, and that can really help people, especially as we get more and more documents. So have a think about that. Have a think about if you want to write a quick guide, it can just be a Word document that takes some of the inspiration from this. If you're doing this kind of work in this project, here are the 3 most relevant documents linked to the intranet. And hopefully that will help everyone, because we don't want to end up with an intranet over time that's just a dumping place for documents. So that's it from the demo. Are there any questions about the communications guide? Or even the process of making this? No. Nella, do we want to? Quick one?
Is there like an update? Are these documents have changed or are the same from
Good question. So have these documents changed or are they new? A lot of them are existing documents. A lot of them were documents that were previously only available to the communications team and now are globally available. And some have been updated recently. It sort of depends on which document you're talking about. So for example, the publications guidance, that hasn't updated anytime recently. But there are some documents that I'm updating pretty regularly because we just didn't have any documentation for, and as I was putting this together, I was building it. So we haven't officially launched them, but they're now available here. We'll probably update them over time. But these links go to, the intranet where the new versions will be. So you'll be able to find the latest when you click on those links. Great. All right, any questions online? Ian?
Is it available externally?
Good question. So technically, this part of the guide we're not advertising it, and we have set a setting so that oh, sorry, repeat the question. No, I don't need to because you... Yes. Okay, I'll repeat the question. Is the guide available externally? So technically, this part of the guide but we're not advertising it, and we've set a setting on the website so that Google is not going to look at it. However, the documents are all secure. So the documents all sit on the intranet. It's just these the parts of the guide before you get to the intranet, which technically they could be shared publicly. So we've kept that in mind as we're putting together this information. There's nothing sensitive in the smaller descriptions in here. But if somebody tried to open up one of these documents and they're not logged in as someone from SEI, they would not be able to. So great. Was that it for online questions? All right, that's it from me. Moa, do you have anything final to say?
Yes, well, thank you so much, Misha. This is great. We've really been waiting for this for a long time. I would just like to say that if you do have any questions or if you see any bugs now that we have launched the new intranet, I would really like you to go to the help desk. Let me just remind myself of the name again. On Teams, we have an open team for everyone that's called, it's called Help Desk for Office 365. So please use that team site, and you can just join it if you'd like to, if you have questions. Ian, would you like to just come on this side of the camera for once, because you're always on the other side, because Ian will be the one giving you support if you have questions. And I think it's a great opportunity for people not working at HQ to see you. Hello.
Yep, it's me. I'm here.
Good. Do you want to say anything about the support and or ways to contact you? You want them to go through this channel, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a question that you think applies to more than just you, it's best to post in that team because then everyone else will get a solution as well.
Yes.
If it's really specific, feel free to just chat with me directly in Teams. So if you feel it's just something that you need help with directly, just send me a chat in Teams and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian.
Great.
Any questions now before we wrap up this meeting? Oh, 10:40. We've been going through this quickly. No questions?
Maybe just one on the Yammer thing.
Sure. Just a second. Oh, you get one there.
So at the HQ retreat, there were a couple of questions on what the intranet does and what Yammer does and what options for not so much internal communication per se, but maybe for sharing, information, tips, fun stuff, a little bit outside of work, arise from either of the two, intranet or Yammer.
Very good question. So I would say that the fun stuff or the more informal information that we'd like to share should go through Yammer. So the internet is a more professional information, and we have this structure of that we've just seen of how to share that information. But if you want to give tips on great stuff to others, use Yammer. And anyone can go in there and create channels. I think groups are the naming for them in Yammer. So please use Yammer. Yep. Åsa?
Maybe I can just add to that we are at least Åsa, we were discussing with Åsa, Julia and myself, so Knowledge Management and DRC will be using Yammers or Yammer, so we'll direct people to have their sort of follow-up conversation there, for instance, on funding opportunities and so on. So it won't be on the intranet, but we'll direct people to Yammer. So it won't necessarily just be more informal chats.
True.
Yeah,
True.
like that.
Absolutely. Okay. You're absolutely right. And that's a good comment. And that's also a reason why we want to do that is because the intranet is not built for conversations. It's very much a broadcasting channel. So when we want to have conversations that are not sitting in a team that's working together already, because that would perhaps sit in a team site then we will direct people to Yammer. So I'm not saying that it's only the informal conversation, but if you want to start an informal conversation, please use Yammer as well. Andrea.
This is a very practical piece of information. So whenever I was testing and looking through the internet, I quickly found out that as a Mac user, Safari is not the way to go. So if you are a Mac user and have not gone over to Chrome, then this would be the time to do it. And I just did it last week, so it's not too painful.
Good comment, good tips. We know it can be depending on what version of Safari though, but yes, but if you do have issues and you're on Safari, it could be a good reason to change to Chrome and see if it's working there. Or talk to Ian or your local IT and they'll help you. Misha, yes, is your... When I take this one,
I'll take
okay.
this one. Just on the news function on the intranet, I'm wondering what's the sort of permissions of that? Can anyone post something within their center news, or is that localized somehow?
Very good question. So the news section, first of all, some of these subsections are automatically updating. If we were to add a news item, for example, on the global comms section, it would be updated on the home of the intranet. We do not have that connection to all centers, for example. That's a choice that we've done. If you'd like to have information updated or published as a news, go to the section owner of that section that you find at the bottom of each of the pages of the sections. and talk to them if that is something that should be going up as a news item. Yes. Any other questions? Ian, do we have any questions online? Yes. Oh, here.
All right. Yeah, Richard Klein, he asks, are you also planning to use the intranet to access old projects, publications, and so on?
Old projects, good question, thank you. All old projects publications can be found on the external website. So we will not duplicate the information, but those should be searched for through the SCI.org. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well then, thank you so much. I will be sending out a link to the intranet. And if you're watching this after the live session, it's going to be in the description. With also information about updating your profile page. Please, I encourage you to do that. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.